Alright guys, sorry for the slightly delayed start. Thank you for attending and giving me your time for, say, about 45 minutes. What we're going to talk about today is a series in the digital FireStarters which is called Wearables. And I'll explain, just for those of you that have never been to a digital FireStarters session, the whole purpose of these sessions is to have a closed, nice community that we can actually discuss digital and talk about technological evolutions and how that's going to impact us as a business and how it's impacting the world externally as well, and seeing what's actually going to, how we're going to evolve as a business in, or stay within market research, and you know what else is going on out there, and just getting your viewpoints and thoughts on it, and hopefully a bit of a good discussion. We've got a nice sort of closed group here, nice small unit. That would be really great to sort of get some feedback and conversation going. So do throw out any questions. One strange request. So if you want to ask a question during the session, happy to take them, but you have to clap. Right? So if you want to ask a question and you don't want to wait till the end, clap twice. Can everyone clap twice? Cool. Okay. Is everyone comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Yeah? I'm going to take you out of your comfort zone for a bit. Something slightly different. Just made it up on the spot. There you go. So, as I said, these digital FireStart sessions are all here to sort of hopefully give you the power to speak to our current clients and hopefully our prospects and your colleagues about digital, about new innovations that are taking place in the world of digital technology, and hopefully think of new ideas or new ways we can actually influence the way we're doing business. Maybe come up with your own growth tool or new idea that can be presented to the innovation board and could wipe out some of our other existing offers. You never know. It could be amazing. It could innovate in any way. Bringing it back to the point, what we're here to talk about today is wearables and wearable technology, and what is a wearable. So, what are we actually going to discuss today? I'm going to take you through, as I said, what a wearable is, and why should you even care? Is it just a fad, or is it going to disappear, or what's going to happen there? And I'm going to talk about a few different things. We're going to talk about wearables, something called nearables and hearables. Does everyone know what these mean, or have an idea or clue? Okay, that's good. We've got something to talk about there. And then the final point is going to be talking about what's the impact on market research. So this session will be slightly different to the others, where we won't just have a TNS case study that I'm going to mention or go through. I'm going to open it up to you guys to think about, have you had any sort of tech-enabled research that you've heard of, that you've been involved in, and take it from there. So it's going to be quite an open session in that one. So, the first thing, what is a wearable? Does anyone know? Does everyone own a wearable? One person, 2, 3, 4. Okay. What wearables do you guys have? Smartwatch, Apple Watch, smartwatch. Fitbit. Okay, cool. So, does everyone agree that these guys have wearables? All right. So those would, that said, no, I don't own a wearable. You're all wrong. So what I'm going to take you through and explain to you is what actually is a wearable. So even your clothes is technically a wearable, right? It may not be as evolutionary as, or technology enabled as your Fitbits or your Apple Watches or your other technology, but it's actually giving you an interface to actually speak to people, give a perception of what you're talking about. So, for example, I'm wearing jeans and a t-shirt and some trainers, so I think I'm quite hip and cool and chilled out. And I didn't want to feel too claustrophobic when presenting. I was feeling nervous this morning. So it's helped me to interface with you all today. And it's created an interface, just like that Apple Watch is an interface. You've got a watch. A traditional watch, again, is another wearable, right? It allows you to view the time. Before, what would you do? You would look at the stars and navigate, or where the sun's position is, and take it from there. The next evolution was the watch, which is, and recently in that small time frame, we've now got our mobile phones that have taken over a lot of people's watches. Information is another wearable. Your Apple Watch, which is more than just giving you time. It can give you other data information. Glasses. Those with glasses on, it's giving you superhuman vision, clear vision when you can have it, right? So that's another wearable in terms of how you're engaging with the world, and it's actually super enhanced your way you're working, just like your Fitbit has. Has your Fitbit enhanced your life? Yeah? You all feel it's really made a big difference in how you engage and developed your fitness levels? Are you more conscious about what you're doing in a behavioural way? That's probably a really strong point, right? Cool. I'm just going to skip back to a slide. So this whole thing, this is just an interesting quote by a chap called Nikola Tesla, not the inventor of the Tesla car, but an actual scientist that was actually predicted or was already future thinking in terms of developing technology that will be in your pocket in the moment, in time. And this was in 1926. So he's talking about an instrument that will control your life in your pocket, which his prediction came true, right? We all have phones, but it's gone beyond that. Since 1926, when he predicted that to modern day, if we think about your Apple Watch, your Fitbits, all your connected devices that you have, these devices are getting smaller, smaller, and smaller, and smaller, right? And the wearables market, in terms of what we're thinking a wearable is, the reason why I gave you that quote, or talking about clothes as an interface as a wearable, is probably to hopefully open up your minds thinking about not just technology in the basic sense of, oh, I've got something flashy on my wrist, or I've got this new Google Cardboard or VR headset on my head. That's not the only sort of wearable that you can think of. There's a wider remit to think about. And that hopefully opens up your mind to thinking about research and data points in a different way. Not just thinking about, we've got a new data set, now what we're going to do with it and how we're going to move that forward and analyse it, and that's it. It's giving it a broader context and hopefully widening your perception. So, wearables at the moment, what's out there? Just taking you through some of the wearables. You've also got sort of Nike Fuel Bands, Jawbones, Fitbits, apps, and even actually traditional watches which have Bitbit data and information already built into it. Plus there's this new tech which I say pretty new in terms of released at the beginning of the year. It's called Hexoskin. Has everyone heard of Hexoskin or know what it is? Okay, so you're aware of Hexoskin? Yeah, in terms of... Cool. So essentially what it is, it's a piece of clothing, another wearable, with another wearable within it. So it's got your Fitbit data, or you're monitoring your pulse, your sweat rates, etc. in your fitness clothing. Right? So it's a very targeted niche audience that people are wearing those fitness clothing. And it's quite expensive, to be fair. You're paying a couple of £100 maybe for a sweat top or some bottoms. Which you need to be quite into your sport or quite concerned about your health in that way, or fitness freak to want to, in a freak in a good way, but in terms of like wanting to learn about that technology and understand what it's doing, what it's providing. But at the moment, what does that information really do? What do you do with that? I'm thinking from the end consumer's perspective, right? You've got all this data that you're collecting about yourself. But what do you actually do with it? It tells you, oh, my heart rate is X. I've done 350 steps today. I've done 18,000 steps. That's amazing, but what does that mean? So just like at TNS, where we say, where's the so what? Signature approach, right? What's the so what? What's the big impact? What's the changing thing? It tells you that I've done 1,000 steps, or I've climbed the Eiffel Tower. And then, what does that mean? Okay.
Does it potentially encourage the person wearing the technology to do more if they see that they're underachieving their goals or something like that?
To develop further, right? So it's creating a small behavioural change, right, in society. Perfect. So what it's actually doing, beyond just thinking about I've done this many steps, even within our team, I've seen this, and other groups. There's people that have set up groups with Fitbit. and there's internal competition starting about who's done the most steps. So inevitably, they're starting to build their own personal health. They're building communications and stronger relationships with people within the office, as a basic example, right? And it starts to create that behavioural change. But you're still not, as an individual, getting much from it. If you think about it in terms of technological evolution, a smartphone, oh no, forget smartphone. Talking about, does anyone remember the old Nintendo devices with the giant cartridges that you put in? Yeah? Slightly going off wearables, but just think about this. That was always there's always a big point that people talk about in terms of technology. Oh, it's got more technology in here and you can than they used in the first mission to the moon, right? So it's more powerful than the first device that took people to the moon and traveled and got people out of this orbit onto another planetary system, right? A planet, not planetary system. But now we've got these amazing devices that are now apparently supposed to change our lives or help us think in a different way, and they are. I'm not saying they're not. And thank you for bringing up that point. But it's still, if you think about it in terms of what we're actually getting from it as a consumer, we're just getting some steps and information. The so what part is still developing. And I think that's an important part where it's going to develop and move into.
Does that data feed into the company's databases?
It depends. So I'll actually go on to that and show you. There's actually some examples where it does. And an interesting stat, just before I move on from wearables, there's a study done by Kantar Wellpanel showing the actual decline of wearable purchases. And people that haven't actually purchased, and I'll circulate the article, because it's quite interesting. I think it was only 12% of the UK and do actually own a wearable, and 14% in the US. But if you look at people that are actually going to be purchasing a wearable device or a watch or further technology, it actually drops even further. I think it goes to like 4.7%. And that's in the UK, and that's quite strange. I thought, I started this talk and I thought, oh crap, is this going to be a completely dead topic? It's going to like dissolve. There's nothing to talk about wearables. Well, I kind of disagree. I don't think we're there yet. I think this is like the beta stages, and you're thinking about Fitbits and the Apple Watches, and people that have bought them. Generally, you are early adopters because in terms of taking on that technology and thinking about it in a different way, hopefully, you'll develop it. But I'm going to move on and talk about where it's moving on to. So just think about data proliferation and the so what. So who's actually already doing this? So some of the giants out there. So talking about three of them, Google, Microsoft, and Apple. So Apple have got their healthcare unit on the new Apple devices, the application which builds a code of all your activity information, right? So that's coming towards this thing about so what, and it's giving you an interface to actually work with, right? So you're actually seeing data and information similar to what we do in some sense, but it's giving you instantly and saying this is what your heart rate, your BP is going at, this is how fast you ran on your last run, this is the distance you've done, this is the steepness of the hill, climate, blah blah blah. Great. Microsoft Health goes slightly further in how it's developed this, and sort of Google does the same thing as sort of Apple. It's getting there, it's building this sort of dashboard, and that's nice. And it's quite interesting because that's all going to a central source. It's going to these giant corporations. And does anyone know if they can view that information or know if that information is theirs or who owns that data? That's quite scary in one way, like maybe creepy. Getting stages to that sort of borderline creepy stage. But the one that's sort of more prevalent in the US is HealthVault. And that's Microsoft's technology that allows you to actually suck in all this data and information from multiple devices. So it's how do you actually link into them and collect data, right? But the next stage they've actually taken it to is you can then speak to health advisors, or there's actually people that you can actually speak to directly that will advise you on your health, which is quite an interesting take on it. But then, are they certified? Are people going to trust them? There's the whole behavioural contextual piece you need to think about around that. So it's getting to sort of that borderline creepy stage, I feel like, where they're now not just finding out, technology is not just finding where I'm clicking, where I'm going, know my geolocation, etc. They're now getting into my body and they're understanding how I'm actually mechanically working, biologically working, which is they're no longer outside, they're actually inside, and they're seeing how you think, how you move, what your moods and perceptions are on certain things, and that can be sort of all alluded to, I guess, right? That's quite an interesting take on it in terms of wearables and where they're actually going. I'm taking you through a few examples where now corporates have actually adopted this technology. So one sort of interesting case study was Oscar Insurance. Oscar Insurance is an insurance firm in New York. What they were doing was actually giving wearable jewelry, so essentially a Bitbit on a pendant, right? And they were actually not even giving this away for free. It was something you would buy into at a subsidised rate. But what's the actual advantage of you taking on this piece of jewelry or this pendant? It's actually to give you cheaper insurance at a certain rate. So if it meant that you hit a certain amount, what Oscar said, if you hit a certain amount of steps per day, it would actually affect your premiums in terms of what you're paying for your insurance. So you can see how this data and a wearable has now got a commercial platform with an insurance company. So you're thinking quite boring square, right? Insurance company now adopting wearable technology and thinking about how it's actually going to influence their consumers from that perspective. Plus, they're collecting data and they know the likelihood of when they could either potentially fall ill or what's going to happen to them, etc. So quite an interesting space, and it's still going ahead and it's working and it's developing a lot of interest. But there is this sort of backlash at the moment of people thinking they've now got all this information and data on us. How is that going to affect our premiums in the future, and how is it going to develop? Because that could mean you're paying more for your insurance, or they know your whole health history. So if there's some inaccuracies in the data gets lost. Who owns that data? Who sees it? There's a whole sort of world of data politics in that sense. Which is quite interesting, but they've made it work as an interesting case study. One that I like, and they take you to the next step, is Walgreens, a sort of health manufacturer, a health store in the US, in North America. What they've done is part of their reward scheme, and the great thing about this, it actually doesn't rely on having a specific piece of technology. It relies on you having a wearable device. So it could be an app, so it could be measuring your steps, your Fitbit, your Apple Watch, etc. Using all that data, all of these APIs, all these pieces of software from different manufacturers can all plug into this one scorecard, your balance point, your rewards card. So basically Tesco Club Card with wearable integration, right? And what they've done with this is give you value add. So they now, just like sort of Oscar Insurance, if you reach your goal, which is set by them, you then gain additional points for them. So forget about just getting Tesco Club Card points because you bought stuff in Tesco's or another branded store. You now get points directly for walking. So for getting healthier or improving your health, there's a whole sort of political, quite interesting potential to our public in terms of how is this affecting sort of how governments can help to influence health for the NHS or health, etc. Blah blah blah. So what they're doing is then obviously building up that piece. But the next stage where it develops, which is again moving to that stage of slight creepiness by the corporate giants, is and quite helpful. Depends how you view it. They actually have, again, similar to some of the Microsoft Health Vault, they actually have advisors that are not just complaints handlers or telesales or telephone communicators in there. They've actually got specific advisors to manually monitor your number of steps, your heartbeat, all the stats, the biostats that you're actually providing, because you've already created a value exchange, right? So that's number one thing. You've opted into a station where you're now freely giving your information to this organisation to analyse and to help you, but they're obviously getting better targeted to understand how they can actually provide you with better products. So what would happen is, what actually happens is you would actually get a phone call or a message from a advisor saying, "Hi, realised your heart rate's increased over a certain period of time. I think it's something maybe you should think about changing your diet, or we've got these B3 pills, or I don't know what different pills you can take. Yeah, in aisle 3, and you're going to get 30% off. And here's an extra 250 points. Go buy them." Does anyone feel a bit creeped out by that?
Do you have the option of
Opting out.
getting a call or not? That's really weird.
That's quite freaky, right? So in the beta stages, yes, it was actually opt-in for all. So it was quite an extreme case. People are working towards it. It's still an option, but they've actually, I think when I last looked at the stats on it, got them from the case study, it was like 42% of people actually opted in to actually wanting to have a health advisor or have these offers sent through to them. Because again, there was a value exchange. So there's this thing about that underlying soft sell, which was slightly creepy, but they got a special offer. But I still think that's sort of borderline. They're kind of invading the space and how comfortable are that. But 42% of the people that actually opted into this whole case study were fine with it. That's not a small percentage, right, to think about. People are now becoming more and more inclined to providing or giving away more and more data. But how do you collate it and utilize that in a positive way? And I think that's something, again, to link back to market research. How do we think about layering this information into our market research, or thinking about this biometric information in terms of product testing? Could be wider than just Kantar TNS, Kantar retail, in terms of what they already do in terms of wearables, geo-tracking where people are walking, what they're doing, etc. So, interesting. Caught me off guard.
Are there any stats around conversion? If 42% of people are opting in, I think it would be useful if somebody was targeting me with specific things that were relevant. But is there any sort of stats around, well, how many times did they interact and then nothing happened because they were selling the wrong product, or it turned out they were running for a bus every day instead of actually trying to get fit and they're trying to sell them stuff?
Yeah, so it's iterative. So there isn't any deep stats I'm aware of in terms of that, but in terms of the technology, it's similar to an app. So this is not a wearable, but similar to an app in terms of, it's easier for me to explain. App called Wave. I don't know if anyone's heard of that. It links into Google. It's actually a navigation app, and I'll recommend everyone download it in terms of, it's really, really helpful in terms of telling you where the traffic hotspots are, etc. And an interesting reason why I'm linking that to what you're saying is there was the option of, exactly, are you running for a bus, or what activity are you doing? You have the option to put that information into the system. So when that's updated in terms of your records, so there is this bigger profiling occurring, which is manual. So that's why they had to do it on a smaller sort of case, smaller, but small for merit. So it's still quite a large amount of people that are involved in the case study. But what that did was, the reason I'm linking back to Wave was, I was on the way to the Warwick office and I was driving there, and I had the Wave app on, and suddenly I slowed down. Straight away, a notification pop up on the app. Canal, is there loads of traffic, or what's going on? And it's got the option for me to then pass that information to that network and provide further information. So that's the same way with Walgreens. There's the option where, hey, you just running to the bus, or you just tied it to your dog's leg, running around, you're going to get 1 million points. Yeah. So how's it actually going to make a difference? So there is that option where there is a sort of not an opt-out, but there's a conversation take place. And that's, I think, important, where this tech is evolving and the AI stuff is great, but the insights professionals at the other end, let's call them insights professionals, not just glorified telephone salespeople. They're drawing information from that and actually making some human intelligent decisions. And that's what I think we do on a very sort of high level. That's probably like low level insights. Etc. We're sort of at a higher platform, so just imagine, I think that there's always still this place for market research, but you've got to, I think, adapt constantly. So I'm just reading the point, but it's important for us. So I want to show you this quick case study, a couple of minutes long, which is quite interesting, on a company called Autodesk, and I think it actually highlights the point you mentioned around what a corporate's doing about this and how it's actually going to integrate. So this is actually a wearable tech case study for an insurance brand called Autodesk, who actually gave away free or subsidized the cost of a Fitbit.
They're becoming more popular with consumers, but many of them still suffer from a recurring problem. Consumers buy them, and then after about 3 or 4 months, they put them in a drawer and never wear them again. Some of the companies in this space think the answer might come from having a third party that actually makes the data that these wearable devices are collecting more important. It's not just data for you, it's data that can perhaps even be seen by your employer. And it's data that could even, eventually, affect your health insurance payments. Some wearable companies like Bitbit have begun selling their devices in bulk to employers. And these employers, like Autodesk, for example, sell those Fitbits at a discount to their employees. The idea at Autodesk is to encourage healthier behavior and a happier workforce.
Autodesk has a global corporate challenge. There are teams from all over the world competing. I think there are about 400, and you are automatically provided with a pedometer that's just a basic step counter, and then in addition to that one, there's an option to get a Fitbit, either the wristband type or the one like I have for a discount. I think it'll be a great way to not only get involved in what the company's doing, but help my health situation as well.
It helps me realize that I should get up, go for a walk during the day, take a little break and move around versus just staying at my desk. For the company, I imagine it just helps benefit the health and well-being of all the employees. The data that the job one-up is collecting does not go to Autodesk. That's something that I keep.
Some companies are taking even more radical approaches than Autodesk to try and encourage healthier behavior among their employees. It's not just to keep their staffers happy, but also to lower healthcare costs. In the case of the oil giant BP, that company has given out thousands of Fitbits to its employees who wear them as part of a corporate wellness program. Now, if those employees walk 1 million steps and those steps are tracked by their Fitbits, they can actually opt in for a lower health insurance premium. Fitbit offers employers like BP a dashboard to allow them to monitor the health of the population of their workforce. And that helps them, especially if they're self-insured, like BP or Autodesk, to determine a budget for their healthcare costs over the course of a year. Now remember...
Okay, that video goes on and on, but does everyone see that quite an interesting take on how... Slides back up.
Yeah, I saw that there's a UK company and they're actually they're trying to see if people sleep enough.
Yes.
And then giving you money. I think they're giving you money if you get enough sleep on your work nights as well.
Yeah. So it's like a sleeping nanny in a way. Quite interesting in terms of how Autodesk have done that. And just going to come back to your point in a second. There was, in terms of Autodesk, they were giving away free tech, which is great, quite empowering. And they weren't collating that data information. They're keeping it quite personalised to the actual individual. They're not going to take ownership of it, but it's helping them in terms of a corporate incentive. As the one with BP said, they control their insurance funds, etc. So if they've got a healthier workforce and they can prove that with data, they've got numbers that they can actually put towards it. In some way, they're actually influencing their profitability as a business. So there's a great incentive for them to actually provide wearables or think about wearables in a different way. Interesting. The example you said made me think about, isn't that sort of this whole thing, I keep repeating this thing about 1984 and the big nanny state, slowly infiltrating away, and it's doing it it's a good cause. It's nothing bad, but if you're being monitored in terms of Monday to Thursday, maybe sleeping habits, and making sure you go to bed on time and you wake up on time, isn't that like, whoa? Am I like? I was thinking that's like my baby who I have to make sure, like Anushka, who's like 6.5 months. Make sure that she goes to sleep on time, and I'm doing exactly the same thing. I'm adult and I'm supposed to be free. So, yeah, quite scary as well. I'm going to relate to one other case study that's quite interesting, where it caused an issue it was actually an insurance insurance, or no, a finance company in South America. Sorry, people into insurance. Finance company in, I think it was trading currency. So they had a mobile workforce. It was completely decentralized business. What they would then did was actually every employee was asked to download an app on their phone and to have this app in terms of being trackability and understanding what their whereabouts were within a certain time frame. But what was actually in the clause was a 24-hour clock watch of these individuals and where they were, what they were doing, what bars they might have been in, or were they at home, or their friend's house. You had geolocation and step monitoring on it at that time. And what happened was all in their contracts as a clause that they weren't allowed to actually, that contractually they had to have this app on their phone because the employer wanted to know where they were, so they could get in touch with them, or if there was a new hot inquiry that they needed to get to. It was all quite interlinked and great. What actually happened was a lady that was employed by the company. This is getting a bit crazy, right? It's midnight, and they know where I am or what I'm doing. Or in the middle of the night, they know if I'm at home or at a friend's house, and whole lots of different things in terms of insights of gossip. A new level of analysing gossip in the office of where everyone was and what they were doing. She deleted this app off her phone and received a letter from HR saying, unfortunately, as you deleted the app off the phone, you no longer want to be tracked, and there was a sort of other communication there, now no longer employed for the company, right? I have tried to find out exactly what's happened since. I haven't got the full answers yet, but I will relay that back. That was quite an interesting take on what an app or a device has now controlled this woman's career, her life. That's a bit scary to how that data could be used and built in.
Sorry, quick question. What about the legal implications? So you had that example of the of Walgreens.
Yes.
I mean, I guess there haven't been any examples that I've heard of, at least, where if a rep does call you and you get bogus advice and you get a negative health outcome, or whether you're tracking your employee and your employee is I don't know, in doing illegal activity, and that tracks them and proves that they were somewhere where they say that they weren't. I mean,
so in terms of the employee side, I think it's easier to quantify, because if you've given access and you sign the employee contract, and it has the legalities in it, okay, ethical side to one side for a second, but thinking ahead, which is actually an important part of it, but if you sign that contract, and you're now physically owned by that company between this time and this time. Although we may not think of like that, it doesn't feel like that in this environment that we work in, because it's great. But technically, if you think about it, they physically own you from the hours of 9 till 5, right? No? Disagree? Agree? Although it's not that strict, and it's like, but if it came down to like tick for tat, like, oh, actually in your contract it does say you work here from this time to this time. Obviously there's flexibility in this. We're human. We're not. But in that sense, right. But in terms of the Walgreens piece, that's very interesting in terms of legalities, how you're actually going to combat that. I think there was restrictions in terms of they're not giving medical advice. So that's why they couldn't call themselves medical advisors. They were, I think, technically they were classified as lifestyle. So there was technicalities all around it. So yeah, but that'd be quite interesting. I don't know how that would actually span out. I'm going to now explore that as a point. Yeah, that's quite interesting. What's going to be the future? Just imagine that happened to Tesco Club Card information in the UK, and you had all this data and information. I know what these guys are buying, and I may say, oh, when I've rang up for my life insurance, don't smoke, don't drink. I was like, oh, I do drink, don't I? I was like, oh yeah, I drink. And oh, I know I eat healthily. I'm reasonably healthy. And then you look at my shopping basket, and I've got frozen burgers, waffles. There's no green veg. What are they going to do? So how are they going to use that information? That could be quite interesting in terms of legalities, and I think that's a bigger conversation on its own.
It's like Apple refusing to unlock that phone, isn't it?
Yes.
And then some public-spirited individual finding a way to hack it anyway. But it's worth looking at what the legal discussion around that was.
Yeah.
It really got going, but
Yeah. That's definitely one to, build into the mix. So what's next for wearables? So we talked about wearables and where they are. And we've now got these external things which we're happy to wear on our bodies. We have these phones that we carry around with us 24 hours a day. So we're comfortable with having devices and technology linked to us. The first thing you do when you wake up in the morning, or most people do, is you will pick up your phone before you even say good morning to your partner or whoever in the house. Or you've opened your eyes and the first thing you'll see is an Apple phone or your Android device or your watch. Is that most people in the morning? Yeah. That's quite sad, and I feel I'm included in this. Don't you feel that's quite crazy, right? That we're now all not sad. Maybe that's the wrong word. Sorry, I'm in that bracket as well. But the first thing you do is you pick up a device, and I'm talking to an Apple device, or I'm going to OK Google and seeing what the weather's like, or when my next bus is at the end of the road. Am I going to make it on time? That's quite freaky. But I think the next level is, because of those stats in terms of Cantar wall panel and data, in terms of Bitbit purchases and watches not being sort of the thing that people want, because there's this whole thing about integration of fashion and the physical look of the phone. Apple have done it quite nicely because they brought it into this whole sort of unique buying experience, and they built these beautiful straps and different levels of cleanliness you can bundle, and that was just to hide the whole beautiful device in a nice home. You're still getting your pulse data information, etc. Same as a Fitbit or a Fitbit 10. But you're still having something external. But people aren't willing to have something like that. What about actually having something implanted into your body? So you no longer need to worry. I don't know, I'm not selling this, but I'm just going to say, you no longer need to worry about having your pass for work, having an Oyster card. I just walk through the barriers. And you're going into a world where all this biodata and information is actually constantly being monitored 24 hours a day. You can think about the amazing health implications, potentially. If you've had sort of Wired had an article on, it's another video, but I won't show it now, but I'll share this with you. It's about it's to block heart blockages, etc., and thinking about the symptoms or trigger points that people need to be aware of before they actually have a sort of mass heart attack, right? And they're building this technology into it from a health perspective, and it's a third-party health provider. And they're actually thinking about how they can actually implant that into people to monitor people that could be potentially susceptible to having a heart attack, and how that's actually going to stop this actually happening. So there's positive ways, but then there's also the bits around who's actually going to get access to the information. Is the state going to know where you are, what you're doing, when you're moving, etc. And you have no way of them switching it on or off. It's just inside you. And this whole thing about the minority report. We've said this before. At the moment, I think it's still clunky. In the last talk, we talked about Microsoft HoloLens, which is a device that you would wear on your head. But it's this big clunky thing that takes up your visual peripheral, and you're kind of in this sort of immersive environment with this big thing walking around. Just imagine it was all of us in a room, or our desks, or no desks, with these big things on our heads, just working away. You couldn't feel like kind of like drones in a way, or how do you engage with? Like, hi Steph. No, I just see this big thing on a head. It just feel weird. But if it was actually just then open as a device.
What's happened with Google Glass? Because it was making a lot of advancements, and then it kind of just went
crashed. Yeah. So there are some points in terms of its revival, but not in that original beta stage. It's purely because it wasn't sexy enough. It wasn't people who didn't want to wear it because they felt like, idiot, why is he wearing that thing on his head? Or what is it doing? And it wasn't functionally working properly. I don't think we were there technologically advanced enough to actually make it work. So even now, we've got these massive devices that take up headspace. No one's going to wear a clunky thing on their head. Although they're, it's one piece of tech and it's getting there, but it's not developed enough for people to think I would use it as an everyday device. You couldn't see people walking around in the streets. And that's normally my gauge. And how I think about it is Joe Public going to walk around on the street with his technology or use something like that? And that's my basic gauge. There are things like the Gartner hype cycle or things like that. Does everyone know what Gartner hype cycle is? So Gartner hype cycle, I'm not going to go into too much about this, and I'm not 100% a massive fan of it. It's a nice indication. But what it does, it's actually a chart that gives you an indication of when technology is going to take off. So it gives you an idea of when Bitbits or wearables or smart technology or smart homes is going to take off, and where's it going to actually land, and is it going to be a fad or is it going to last a longer period of time? And it gives you a period of it has different triangles and circles indicating when they think it's actually going to happen. So it's released every July, generally. So you guys can Google it and check it out. But take it with a pinch of salt, because where they failed, and they're quite a conservative organisation, like some of the stuff they do, very conservative. They mispredicted the flow of mobile phones or mobile technology. They didn't think it was actually going to happen. They thought it was going to be a fad. Social media, they thought that was another fad. So they failed on quite a few big ones. But I don't know. Maybe that's that could be anyone. But yeah.
What are the actual benefits of
the head thing? Cool. It basically gives you an interface in front of your eyes. So there's two. There's a VR thing. There's augmented reality. So VR is when virtual reality, when I could film this whole thing in a 360 video, and I could then walk around and be in that immersive experience. So it gives you an interface in front of your eyes. It makes you feel like you're actually immersed in that environment. And augmented reality is now taking away that barrier of reality. Have you played Pokemon Go? Yeah. No, I haven't. Yeah. So what you do? So can you see? You can see that you've got this visual interface showing you. I could be in this room, scanning my phone, and suddenly there's a Pokemon in the corner, and I'll run over there. But that's the augmented reality piece in terms of trying to capture it. You're building in the technological world into the real world. Is that? Yeah. So quickly talking, I'm just going to run through this part. Sorry, I'm taking quite a bit of time, but there's 3 other bits of tech which are interesting, but I don't know how far they're going to go. There's this thing which is getting closer to that stuff. It's called Fin. It's a ring that you can wear that allows you to, again, use instead of implanting something in your body. Again, I don't know if I would wear it. So a lot of this is actual behavioural and contextually thought through. So my thing is, would anyone here wear that? Anyone wear these rings or earrings? Beautiful jewellery? Yeah? Interesting, it's getting better and better, it's improving, but still it's not as sophisticated. So this technology here, whereas this allows you to open sensors and do different things and activate things, you have to, it works with Bluetooth technology. Slightly weak in terms of its technological advancements, battery powered. Here you've got these smart jewellery which actually just monitors your calories, and it's just a sensor on your ear. But it's not being developed further than these particular pieces of jewellery here. You've got jewellery which actually has a technological interface on it, so you can, while you're at, change the colour of the jewellery or information. Again, linking back to research in terms of product testing. Could that be an easy way to test cans? I don't know, it could be quite an expensive way, but some people could think about. This is the one that I love, and it's quite cool. It's a piece of tech called Project Solly. And what it is this actual device here, which is actually interweaved within the clothing, the fibres of your clothes. So my jeans could be made out of Project Solly's cloth, right? So then weaving technology into the fabric of what I'm wearing. So I no longer need a Fitbit device. I no need a thin ring or some jewellery that I may not like, but I just want to monitor stuff, so I'm wearing it. It's actually interweaved into your clothing. So it feels a lot more natural in terms of how you do things. I mentioned this before, I don't know if you were at one of the last talks, but what it allows you to do is it's actually an RFI tag. So what it does, it allows you to then move objects or program certain things, like to turn off the projector, dim the lights, by hand actions and movements, which are more nuanced to being a human, rather than having devices or small screen that's that big. What am I going to do with it? See, what's happening, etc. I think that's a really clever piece of tech in terms of how it could help behavioural qualitative research in a way. in terms of analysing people's movements or understanding how they behave because they're wearing a certain jacket or piece of clothing, and how they're moving within a focus group, or even take away the whole focus group thing. Because focus group, then you're already being pre-screened for thinking about how people are going to behave or think. You might be already fixated on a certain mindset when you're going into a focus group about something. So would you answer correctly or not? If you had this on and integrated it into a study, could that just give you natural movements of how people are moving around, what they're doing, how they're interacting with devices or working in the project for you? Just more for fun. This is the most expensive Fitbit on the market. It's $150,000. I thought it was 250. No, it's 150. It's based on a Roman amaril, which is like a warrior's amulet, or not amulet, it's jewelry. And what it gives you access to is an exclusive environment of VIP memberships, different clubs, VIP services in different locations, etc., wherever you go. Similar to sort of picking you up as sort of a beacon if you walk into a certain, I guess, sort of when you're on Bond Street or New Bond Street, you're going to a designer store or something that, oh my god, you've got this prolific guy who's spent £150,000 on a Fitbit. Bit extreme, but I just wanted to show what crazy stuff is out there. Yeah, and you can only find out information about it if you actually go on their website. So I'm quickly going to wrap up, talk to you about what the hell are Wearables. So talking about three aspects of it: telematics, beacons, and connected home. I think three quite interesting areas in terms of Wearables. So we've gone over all the wearable stuff. Wearables, telematics. It's quite interesting. This has been done for years in Russia for a long time. So basically, it's a black box in your car with information tracking where you're going, what you're doing. This company, Progressive in the US, again, a lot of this sort of starts in the US. What they're doing is basically tracking your, again, it's going back to money of insurance. It's actually, the insurance trade has taken on quite a few of these examples. In terms of tracking where you're driving and changing your premiums as you go along. So if you're driving down a bad street, it could actually affect, and you're doing it on a regular basis, it could actually increase your premiums. If it's classified as a bad street, or where you're parking your car at night, what times you're driving at, what speeds you're driving at, all that information is monitored in terms of that topic. Beacons. This is similar to the sort of Amarillo in terms of picking up where your geolocation is and where you're actually going into a specific store or information. Some interesting uses of it that have happened in the past in the National Theatre, and a lot of museums are picking up on it in terms of having tags which allow you to listen to what that painting's about or picking up information about that piece. Which is quite an interesting case study. Mentioned the sort of it's part of another health kit piece, and beacons and geo-tagging in store. So it's actually allowing you to walk into a specific store. It picks up that you've got their app or their information on your phone, or you have a connection with Boots. Boots do it with text messaging, but they're also evolving it to not Boots, but other companies are also evolving it to having these beacons actually launched in their stores. And what they'll do is pick up that you're in store with specific offers based on that. This is something I've spoken about before, but a really interesting case study. I'll show you a very quick video, about 30 seconds long. I may overrun by 5 minutes, if that's all right, guys. Sorry. If you have to go, I know. Yes. No, it's actually built into the actual car itself. So it's an opt-in. So you've now physically said you can monitor me. I give you all my data. Progressive. Yeah, but technically you've gone down. Yeah, there's lots of legalities around that, or ethical thinking around how that would work. I'll talk you through this case study because I want to add something in terms of behavioural. So basically, what this was, at the moment, everyone knows you can monitor your wearable tech online. Online you can view where your cookies are, what you're doing, what websites you're going to. Offline, it slightly gets a bit sort of blurry and it's hard to connect that information and data. So what this company, this is still a trial, it's something called Physical, you can check it out, it's physicalcookie.com. And they released this thing called Sponda in Scandinavia, and they released about 14,000 of these little cookie, physical cookies to people that are shopping in that centre, and offer them exclusive deals and to drive an understanding of what they're doing. So they've already got this contextual data of understanding them in terms of name, date, age, etc. Plus their shopping habits and what they're actually buying in store. And that was actually affecting the prices of products in store as they walked in. There was LCD screens which were sort of navigating through and explaining what's actually going on and developing with it. So that was quite an interesting case study development there. And the connected home. So this is quite a revolutionary thing. I think it's taken off, and there's a lot of testing that's already happened. There's been Nest that has integrated its products, which is a Google-owned thermometer app, which allows you to gauge the temperature in your house and adapt the temperature in your house. And that's actually been, they've opened that as an open source software, so it's allowed lots of different brands to actually tap into that information and suck it in, as an example. So, Mercedes have hooked it in with their GPS systems in their cars. So any Mercedes driver driving home that has a Nest system at home as well can actually then say, oh, Bob's going to be home in 35 minutes. His usual journey takes this long, a bit of traffic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop on the heating wheel. So it sends a signal from his car to his home to say, can you fire up the heating? Bob's home in 30 minutes. He likes it at temperature. He wants it 22 degrees. The whole house is heating. That's quite a cool way in terms of that integration and development with it. And quite recently, well, last week, Google announced Google Home. Does anyone know what that is or heard about it? Yeah. So they've got these speaker devices and information which you can actually have a conversation with Google by just saying, okay, Google, and developing, not beyond the search requirements and information in there, you can actually now integrate your speaker systems, your alarm systems, your video webcams, security cameras in your house. You can make this whole integrated home and develop it into some sort of random safe house. So this is the thing. Short video before I talk about speakables. See if you can resonate with it or not.
First door on the left. Thank you.
It's a clip from The Big Bang Theory.
Dave, I found 6 vacuum cleaner repair shops in your area. 4 are fairly close to you. Hello, sexy. What can I help you with? If you'd like to make love to me, just tell me. I'm sorry, I don't understand.
So as you know, The Big Bang Theory, Raj is a chap who sort of interacted with Siri as a real human, and it's like developing a relationship. Obviously, you can ask Siri to call you anything. You can tell Siri to call him sexy. But what I wanted to is this. Now, this is the thing I think is probably the closest thing to market research in terms of how we can use this tech. And this is the thing about hearables that I love. There's a new thing called Amazon Echo, which got released about a month or 2 ago in the UK. So they've called Amazon Echo. So what you can do is speak to this device and order things off Amazon, etc., and do searching, view movies, do your Amazon Fire, blah blah blah. Everything's integrated, right? But it's picking up your voice signal, and they're collecting that data and that information on you, right? And it's absorbing that. So from a qualitative perspective, it's giving you a truer, richer experience of people, not in a focus group, but actually in real life, in the moment, and giving you a real natural behavioural moment, because you'll forget about that. If you have a Bitbit or a device, okay, you forget about that information maybe, or forget about that you actually have that device on you after a little while. This is constantly 24 hours a day on. But we're talking to a device, a hunk of metal called Alexa. A I think that's another slightly weird thing that we've evolved as humans or as a society. We're now comfortable with talking to a device, calling it a name. Like Raj, we're all comfortable talking to Siri, and when I mention Siri, everyone's like, oh yeah, I know Siri. Right? Isn't that a bit slightly weird that we're comfortable with talking to devices, interacting with, and having these nuanced conversations with a piece of technology, way beyond what Tesla was talking about in 1926 of just having this portable device that will help control our lives. It's going beyond that. Now psychologically we're being influenced and being told what to do. And where that came true was with this OK Google. There's a short video they have. I'm not going to show it now in the interest of time. But what is quite weird was there's this video and it's showing this family and asks, OK Google, what's my day's plan today, blah blah blah. Talking through and Google responds saying, oh, in your diary you have a meeting at blah blah blah, you know, at this location, you have 35 minutes to get there. But the interesting thing, the kid in this family turns up, goes in with a spacesuit on, and he's like, and mum, dad, this is really cliche, but mum, dad standing there saying, oh my God, okay Google, what day is it today? What's in Darren's diary? The kid's got his own diary on there, everything's got on there. It's like, oh, it's National Space Day at Darren's school, and he's dressed up as a spaceman, blah blah blah. It's costume day. So they're relying. And this sounds stupid, but more and more we're relying on technology to TomTom, on smartphones and using maps. We no longer use a physical map or know where directions are. I'm really bad with directions. I lose my way. I rely on devices and technology to take us through that. So I think that's where the next sort of stage of technology will evolve to. And it's really important from a market research perspective. You're getting a lot of qualitative data that's giving you behavioural, contextual data on individuals in a very comfortable environment. Hopefully that was engaging and useful. If you have any questions, or you can email me some questions, if you like, whatever's easier. But thank you for your time.